Yo, what's happening? Welcome back to the 182 News Podcast. This is your host, Poppin' Curbs, and I really appreciate you making me a part of your day. Today's episode is going to conclude my conversation with Jeffrey Pereira. So Jeff is the current tour manager for Angels Airwaves, as well as Jimmy Eat World. If you missed part one, go back and listen to the previous episode. It was really rad. We got deep into his history, his background, how he got into the music scene. He's done a little bit of everything. So it was really cool to pick his brain on, what it's like to be a drum tech. What's your day like? What it's like to be a guitar tech. Lighting director. He's worked with Taking Back Sunday. He's worked with My Chemical Romance in their absolute prime. We discussed how he met Tom, how he got involved with Angels Airwaves. So really cool stuff. I hope you enjoyed that. I split up the convo, one, because it was over that 2-hour threshold I mentioned before, but two, because this portion of the interview focuses heavily on the recent Angels Airwaves tour. So most people know that Tom hadn't taken Angels out since 2012. It had been 7 years, which is just nuts to think about. So obviously he's been busy building up to the Stars Academy, and myself, like most of you, were stoked to see Tom back on a stage last year. Angels was kicking it into another gear. So what's awesome about this portion of the interview is we discuss really how it came together, what was the vibe like, how were the shows, how did Tom feel about it. We discuss, Tom was getting emotional after some of the shows. So it's just such fascinating insight. I really hope you enjoy this stuff. I'm so appreciative of all of our guests taking time to come on and really just give us a neat perspective on what it's like to be with these bands that we love and listen to. So thankful of Jeff for taking time to hop on the pod. I really hope you enjoy it. I'm going to start part 2 of our conversation right here, and I'm going to catch up with you afterwards. I'm biased, but I have a special treat for you at the end that I hope you enjoy as well. Okay, so yeah, we were talking about some of the cool shit you found, while going through some of Tom's storage stuffs, but I want to, start getting into, Dreamwalker drops, no tour, and then Tom's doing his To the Stars stuff, as kind of involved in all that. He's launching the Secret Machines, the Poet Anderson, stuff like that. Yeah. And then he drops some EPs in there, the Of Nightmares, Chasing Shadows, and then he starts this new music, and all of a sudden there's the first Angels Airwaves tour for the first time in 7 years. So how do you get brought back in? You said you were there all along, but how do you get assigned tour manager? And then let's talk about the recent tour and everything.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. So it was happening, and he was like, "Hey, I'm going to start Angels back up." And because I was around, I always knew it. But he was like, "I'm going to start Angels up. Jimmy's going to manage. You're going to tour manage." And I was like, okay, cool. That sounds great. Absolutely. And I was kind of like, okay, well, if it happens, it happens, I've got other stuff to go. And then Jimmy, who's his manager, who's actually also been around since 2003. Ryan, our merch guy, he was Ryan's merch assistant with Taking Back Sunday when we did Warped Tour in 2004 or something like that.
Wow.
So yeah, it's like we all go pretty far back, but when it started coming to fruition, like Jimmy's pretty responsible for getting a lot of this, like putting the pedal to the metal and going and like moving like ahead. And I remember Tom one day being like, damn, I told Jimmy I'd do a couple shows, and all of a sudden we have this like long tour going on. He's like, I gotta watch what I say around him. And I'm like, yeah. And then, he knew that's what I had been doing, tour managing other artists with Jimmy World and Circa. Cause like I'd come home and pop in to see how everyone was doing, like take care of some gear or something that needed to be done, or something around the studio or the house or something.
Yeah.
And so he was just aware of it. And, it's like, the one thing about touring is like, you want to make sure that you have people around you that it's like, yes, they're competent at their job, but you also have to be compatible with them.
Yeah, I bet.
And so with Tom, it's just like, he knew that we're compatible, and he knew that I could fill the roles with people that would be compatible, So like he gave me carte blanche to hire who I needed to hire.
Oh shit.
Yeah, and so like everyone, Tom Vane, our monitor guy, had done Blink also. And he also does Angels with me. Mark Arnold, who's our front of house guy, who's like one of the best in the world. He's so fucking good. And when Tom found out that Mark used to play guitar in punk rock bands, he was sold, and then found out that he played guitar in a band called Big Drill Car, which was one of Tom and David's, like, they loved that band growing up.
Oh, wow.
And so he was like, we started putting all the right pieces in place, and then Tom was able to like back off and go, okay, cool. Yeah, we're good to keep moving forward. And so like he did that. And then we started talking about production, and Tom just like literally I sent him something that I sketched up in SketchUp that I thought would be cool. And he sent me back his version of it. And then we kind of like, I made that because his version necessarily didn't work within the technical and logistical aspects of an everyday lighting show. Yeah. And knowing that we were going to be pretty, like with Blink, they can have a lighting team of 5 people. With Angels, we have one guy.
Right.
We have Colton, who's phenomenal. And I started taking that, and I go, okay, well, we can do this with that, and then we have a lighting team that we work with called Duck Lights, Lee and PJ and those guys and John, and those dudes are, they helped. Like, Tom had a vision, I made it more technical and sent it to them, and they made their changes to it and said, we were just going back and forth on these long conference calls all summer long. Like, I was out with Jimmy World, and I'd have like a 2-hour conference call about Angels production. And like, we're just like, oh, well, what do we do about this? And we were going back and forth. And then we got it down to the point of what you guys saw, which was like that back wall of light with a couple other things. But the cool part about that was like that we took one lighting guy on tour, and that stuff was set up within an hour every day.
Wow.
It was just the way it was. Like, we worked really hard on designing that so that could like with our bare bones crew come in and out very, very fast. And it did. It was weird. I was like really stoked. And then Tom was really stoked on it. And then PJ, who's our lighting programmer, like, we were having conversations, and Tom was basically like, listen, I want this wall needs to like speak to, like, if there's like little blips and bloops, like that all needs to be reflected in that wall. And like, I think if you really watch and listen to it, like, you saw so much of that,
Yeah.
I thought those dudes really killed it on the programming side of what that show looked like, and that's basically how it all came around. It was pretty quick once it actually, once he knew it was really going to happen, that he had to go on tour. And that Jimmy kind of was like, yeah, man, you should do this. Like there was an interest, like it had been so long, and like, with like Alon's schedule, and then like with David, trying to figure out, like, David having to leave the coffee shops for however long. And Alon needing, like, making sure that Nails wasn't doing anything. And then of course needing to find a bass player.
So who calls Urbano?
Tom did. Tom's known Matt. I've known Matt the longest. I've known Matt since he joined Taking Back Sunday.
That's what I was wondering.
Which is it was so funny. I remember the day he walked up, and he'll tell you the same story, but like, he was like, dude, I've never looked he's like, I've never seen someone look so disappointed in me as you did when I first walked in to Taking Back Sunday. And it's not the truth. I wasn't disappointed, but I was like, who the fuck is this guy? He like showed up. He was wearing a New York Knicks jersey, camo shorts, a Rasta, like some sort of weird Rasta belt, and these weird Nikes. And he was wearing his gig bag, which he still rocks to this day. That dude is a huge champion of the gig bag. And he pulled out like a 5-string bass, and I was like, what the fuck is happening? It was like, it was like outside of Club Benet, or not Club Benet. It was at the time, it's called Starland, not Starland Ballroom. I forget. Birch Hill, the Birch Hill in New Jersey, which is no longer exists anymore. But they rolled up, and TBS was doing a show under the name Booze and Adventure. It was their first show with Matt and Fred. And I was just like, so whatever. But yeah, Matt showed up, and then we became good buds. Like, Matt's a really good. He's a phenomenal bass player.
Oh yeah.
And I think Tom always knew that. But I can't lie, when Tom calls you to tell you that he's hiring Matt Ravano to come in and play bass, and you're like, all right, well, you're 6'4", David's 6'6", Alon's on a drum riser. I'm like, this is going to look weird. So like that secondary riser that Matt was on in the back, it had nothing like, people are like, oh, it's kind of weird that they make him stand back there. It's just like, it just kind of, to me, visually looked better. That's how we designed that, We wanted to put him back there. Also, him and Alon are so good together.
Yeah, man, they really are.
I love not having that disconnect. I love having those two right there, because like, especially where Alon does his solo and Matt's still on the keys,
Yeah.
And like, Matt's right there. Matt's 2 feet away from him, doing his thing on the synth parts at that point. I was like, oh, this is cool. And you wouldn't have that dynamic if Matt was just down on the front of the stage,
Right.
And we just liked it. We liked the weird combination of drum risers and stuff like that. We'll always do something like that, just to elevate Matt a little bit. But I'm a huge fan of asymmetry, and I think Tom likes some of it as well, designing stuff like that. We're working on something cool right now. I'm trying to get together a render to send over, and it's very asymmetrical. So hopefully it's not too over the top.
Yeah, and people forget that David, he wasn't too involved with the Dreamwalker. I mean, I saw him in the studio maybe once or twice, but he went off and he did his thing with James Coffey, which if I'm ever in where there's a location, I totally am going to visit it. But
well, send me when I send you those stickers, I'll send you some James Coffey stuff as well.
Oh, cool. Yeah,
no worries. I got my canteen.
Nice. Yeah. No, I mean, he's always doing cool stuff, and I've seen the stuff with Peter McKinnon that they do. It's super rad. So I was actually very surprised to see David, rejoin. I thought that was awesome to see him finally back. And then
it was great. It was when I found out David, or like when David was going to be involved. It was just so. It's just the two of them are. They have their dynamic, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's just like they work well with each other. And now in David's like current role is just so much more like, the band isn't just his life anymore.
Right.
Like he has a life outside of Angels, and like the band to me is just like icing on the cake, like the coffee shops do well, he's married, he's got a little girl now. He's built such an amazing life for him. Like, I'm so proud of that dude. And so for him to also be able to do Angels and enjoy it and not be his whole life and not have everything riding on it, and like to take that stress off of, because it is stressful. Being in a band is a stressful thing. Oh, especially when it's like, there's times where it's up in the air and there's a lot of uncertainty. Like to see the level that he's at now is just so he just looks so happy, you know what I mean? Yeah. And I know it's hard for David to look happy. I know a lot of people say him. He's just the same look. He's just always so like, he's always just so stoic and just like doing his thing, but like just like his level of like just comfort, like, like even on the bus, like just making sure everyone's taken care of, or the dressing room and stuff, and just like finding stuff to do and like hanging out with everyone. And like it's really cool. And like I said, it's like, for me it's cool because I love going to both. I love being able to have both David and Tom to bounce things off of.
Yeah.
So for them to both be there is phenomenal. And and then of course you have Alon, who's
unreal.
He's unreal. He's one of the best musicians I've ever met, and not just on drums. Like, and people have seen his expertise everywhere, like
right.
If you're like, I forget what that Nine Inch Nails doc was, but he's basically like, I've got to learn cello tonight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and he's like, and then sure enough, there he is playing cello like the next day on stage and stuff. He's just such a talent. And like, I don't think people really understand a lot how funny that dude is. Like,
he doesn't show his humor too much on like social
media.
He
doesn't. No, he's pretty guarded, I think, with that. But like, that dude is so hysterically funny. Like, him and Matt especially, like, those two go back and forth. And Matt like spent so much time doing like improv after TBS. Matt got really heavily into comedy and improv and stuff. And so to see Alon to like not skip a beat and just jump in right with him is just like, oh, not anyone can do that,
Yeah.
Like his brain's just wired in a different way. But the two of them can literally play anything. Like someone would name a beat, or someone would, hey, play this. Like our drum tech would yell out stuff and they would just like go into a groove on it. Like that's how sound check would always start like that, with the two of them just messing around.
One of the things I really liked about that tour as well, and this ties into everybody, it kind of came together at the perfect time, man. Like this whole tour, it was so cool because, people have been missing Tom. He hasn't been on stage in a while. Everybody's anxious for new music. Rebel Girl dropped, so people are stoked for the new stuff. And then Alon, he was doing his stuff with the New Regime. So I thought that was so fucking rad to see Alon open with his band, The New Regime, which, by the way, before COVID, like I was literally going to go see The New Regime, like the Sunday when shit hit the fan, and they like had to drive across the country like that the day before. But his new album's awesome, dude. I love that album.
Yeah, dude. And that's him. It's crazy. His like brain just doesn't stop working when it comes to music.
Yeah.
Like I think they were opening for Silver Sun Pickups, right? On that run. Is that who that tour was? It? Yeah. Like Justin was out with them as well. But like, so the drummer in New Regime is Rob Ketchum, who's a phenomenal drummer, but he's also an amazing MIDI playback and like programming tech.
Oh, really?
And so Rob actually was pulling double duty, and he was our playback guy. You know what I mean? So like, he would literally, we'd sound check, he would wrap his stuff up, set his drums up, sound check for New Regime, and then like take them down. Other band would come up, drumming wires would come up, and then when they were done playing, like New Regime would play, he would tear his drums down. Alon got to go hang out in the dressing room. You know what I mean? Rob had to like get his drums off stage, pack everything up, then go and get right into Angels World as well. He was just off stage.
Oh wow!
But like that dude,
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So that's how we had to do it. Like we were so limited on space and like people and stuff like that. Like that whole tour, I think I hope people really understand just like how much of a team effort that was. Everyone pulled so much weight and did it with so much positivity. Like you just couldn't be happier. Like they were like, it was so fun to be around, and like, and a lot of that was to make sure that Tom had a good time. You know what I mean? Like he hadn't toured in so long. How shitty would it be for him to go out there and not enjoy it? You know? Like I just wanted to make sure that he was surrounded by like the best dudes. And so like we really hit the mark. Like,
and I mean, so those first shows kick off, I mean, how did Tom feel about these? I mean, because he's almost like full blown back into music now. So maybe we have you all to thank for that. But how did these shows go?
I think the first few shows were weird. So Solana Beach Belly Up show was weird because it's like it's mostly, I think it's 700 cap, right? We had like a 250 person guest list. The rest of it was all sold, but it's mostly like, I wouldn't say that it was like like genuinely diehard fans. It was like people that could get their hands on tickets. And it was weird. Like the show went well. We crammed our whole production in that tiny spot, but it was weird. And then then we loaded back into our rehearsal facility, kept rehearsing, shot a music video, and then did the Del Mar Fair show. And the Del Mar Fair is cool, but when you're a just resurging band, and you haven't really put out anything but that one Rebel Girl song. I think, yeah, Rebel Girl was the only one out yet. We had literally shot the music video for Kiss and Tell, like, which was another funny experience. Like that literally came out of nowhere. It was just like we were supposed to be rehearsing, and it was just like, actually, we're going to shoot a music video tomorrow. We're like, what?
Yeah, it's all like backstage and shit.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, you could like, that part where in the music video, I actually come in and I put his ears on him. He's like having a conversation with the model girl, and he leaves and he's walking through like the tunnel to get to where, and then you see Justin put his guitar on. Like that was literally actually exactly what we were doing. We were rehearsing. So like, when you walk by, you see everybody. You see Colton, our lighting guy, sitting at the console. You see Tom, our monitor guy. You see Mark, our front of house guy. We're all just waiting there for him to actually come rehearse. And that's exactly what happens. So that was pretty cool. But so we went back and did the Del Mar show, and that was just odd too. Like it went off without a hitch. It was cool. We did have one hitch. Our front of house console crashed for a little while, but it came back up. But that too was like, okay, well, fuck, this still feels weird.
Yeah.
But imagine not doing something for 7 years,
right?
And like it's gonna feel weird. And then we had a couple days of downtime where the crew, because crew had all been in San Diego for 10 days. Crew got to go home before we started the tour, wherever they live, whether it be it's just me and one other guy from San Diego. Everyone else is either like LA or Albuquerque, Portland. So we get to Phoenix, and I remember getting on the bus the night before. Like the bus picks me and Tom up and the family by his house, and we roll out to Phoenix next morning, and it's still kind of like, okay, this is still weird. You know what I mean? Like none of us, everyone's not on eggshells, but everyone's like, there's like a weird nervous energy. Everyone's anxious. Everyone's like, is it all going to be like this? Is it all going to be this weird? I wouldn't say there was a disconnect between crowd and stage, but there's people were just needing to find out. People were just, just need to find themselves again in that moment. And so we load in and we do the first show in Phoenix. And I remember going out to front of house, like a couple songs in. And that show, I got to watch the whole one. It was a sold out show. I could settle out nice and early. I remember going out front and being like, oh, I can't move in this venue. Like it was packed. I couldn't even get back to front of house. And from the moment they started playing to the moment the show was over, everything was locked in. And I was like, oh, fuck, this is right. Like getting goosebumps now thinking about it. I was like, oh, that's right. This is right. Here we are. You know what I mean? Like the crowd was phenomenal. Like it was like, okay, this is finally our show. This is our crowd. This is exactly what we came here to do. And like we literally after that hit the ground running. It was phenomenal. You know what I mean? And like it was crazy because then in the next show was Austin, and it was even just as great. And like he had all of his like, because a bunch of his To the Stars team is also based in Austin, so there's like a bunch of these like crazy like scientists, astrophysicists, crazy dudes, like really, really smart dudes in the dressing room. And we're all trying to not be dumb and just act cool, and like not talk about anything stupid. And like his whole team is there, and then crush another show, We're like, okay, like we're fucking here. And then we get down into Florida and we're doing the same thing, but like every day, like ending the show with Heaven, which I wasn't ever the biggest like that song is one of those songs that like live all of a sudden means more to you.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
You're like, I'd heard the song before. Of course I had heard the song before. I was like, I'd been involved with it being on stage however many times. But there's something about it being used as the final song of the night. It encapsulating the last 7 years and everything that went into it. And like the lead up to all of those shows, dude, it's so good. Every night
really
I was just like, and then you could literally see it in Tom. Like he would have a hard time finishing that song.
Right.
And it was just like, fuck yeah. We're like, dude, I can get emotional now thinking about it, dude. It was just like, it was, I don't know, man. Every night, so rad. And then just him coming off stage grateful or like even emotional. And you're like, dude, this is so right.
Yeah, dude, it's awesome. Like, I mean, I didn't get to see Angels back in the day. So part of why I was so hyped for this tour is like, it's my first time seeing Angels. Like Tom's back, I'd seen Tom with Blink and everybody's kind of been, missing Tom the past 4 or 5 years. And when I went to the show, man, it was one of those ones that was locked in, and it's just so cool. Like you're there with your people, and Angels isn't the biggest band in the world, but their fans are hardcore fans and those songs mean a lot, man. So when we were locked in, it was a great show. And actually at the end, I had goosebumps as well. And Tom kind of gave a little inspirational thing. He pointed to a girl in the crowd, which was awesome. And actually at the end of that show, I swear I saw him like wiping away tears. And it just gives me chills even thinking about it.
Yeah, like I've got to almost not get emotional talking about it, but we were in Orlando and so my job, one of my parts of my job is to walk him to stage, walk the band to the stage. And normally they all know that if you walk on that way, you walk off that way. But Heaven ends in Orlando. House of Blues is always a phenomenal place for shows. It's Orlando in itself is a great place for shows. And he walked off the wrong side. He walked over towards Justin and he handed Justin a guitar. And so I was just waiting. I was like, well, is he going to come back and cross the stage? And he didn't. So as soon as the other 3 dudes were off, I like ran around the backstage, and it's a really narrow hallway on the right-hand side on stage right. And I get back there and like, I don't know. I mean, maybe he wouldn't want me telling this story. Maybe he would, who knows? But I come around the corner and he's still not here. I'm like, where the fuck is he doing? And I look and he's like behind a curtain and he's just kind of like taking care of some things, Yeah. And he was just like, he literally was like, yo, every night I get emotional. I can't believe it. And I was like,
wow,
made the tour,
Oh my
what I mean? I
gosh.
was like to be able to provide that for him and then provide it for everyone else. See, emotional. Hold on 1 second.
I'm with you, man. Like music and the way that it connects to people, and especially for Tom, who, let's face it, a lot of people have kind of either turned on him or shit on him throughout the past couple years, and for him to actually feel that connection again and have that, I mean, it's just so fucking awesome. I mean, I can't imagine how that feels to him to know he's gotten so much shit. He's crazy. He left the biggest band to go do UFO stuff. And
dude, you have
it's
you
just
have
mind blowing.
no idea, because I will like defend that dude. He's been there for me through a lot of shit. He's helped me out through a lot. I will always defend that dude. So to see him, to feel that, to get that back, because I'm not even sure he had it the last time he was around with Blink.
Right.
I think he enjoyed it, and he, I do think he enjoyed it, and I think he was there for all the right reasons, but I just don't know if he got what he needed, either emotionally or, I just don't know, because I saw it. I saw him back with Blink. I was out with Sum 41 and we did some shows in Europe, and I with them, and I was like, oh, I could see him, but I could also like I don't know. It wasn't the Tom that I know now. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I actually remember walking. Some 41 was opening for them in Bologna, Italy, and I was walking through the dressing room area, and like Blink had their own compound. A lot of times headliners get their own compound, and like he wasn't even in his dressing room. He was sitting outside of his dressing room, like, and he was just by himself, and he saw me, and he like yelled at me from so far away, and he was just like, like just so like excited, and I was like, I didn't know, like I don't know if he was getting that there, and I hope he was, because that's such a huge part of who he is, and he's so proud of that, like
Right.
of what they accomplished with Blink, and I think it means so much to him what they did accomplish. So, but with this Angels thing, like it's insane to see your friend feel that way at the end of the night, like especially like I've paid attention. I've seen what people have said and how crazy they think he is, and like like just write him off, and you're like, fuck, you just don't know him the way I know him, and like that's unfortunate, like, and
Yeah.
I get it that you can't let everybody in, but and you can't always portray your like not true self, but you can't always put it out there for everybody. But like he did, and he was just like torn apart sometimes, and you're like, and it kind of sucks because like he's generally a great dude, like I said. So to see him get to feel that every night, and to see that there's still people out there that believe in like the message that he's putting forward, which is ultimately one of like very much positivity and hope and togetherness and love, and like, and everything that almost comes off as cliche and cheesy, but like sometimes we're too like caught up in it to actually like take a step back and like actually take the time to like share that in a crowd of people,
Yeah.
and that he's so, it's really, that's who he is to like, he wants everyone to feel that, like that energy, and like I absolutely love that. I think he gets that across more than a lot of other artists do. I think like I got to, like I said, I worked with Circa Survive, and like that was another thing that I think him and like a dude like Anthony Green share in common, was that like Anthony could pull a room full of people into that same feeling, and not everyone could do that. Not every artist can do that. Not every frontman can do that. Billy Joe is another dude that's amazing at doing that, and so it was cool to be able to see him get back to that, and to be able to experience that and share that with people, and like, of course throw in a lot of his old like typical jokes, place. And then I always thought the acoustic part of the set was really cool as well. Like he got to give a quick like anthology of all of his old stuff, and like but that part of the set kept getting longer and longer and longer every time. And the stories kept getting funnier, but it was really, that part was rad.
Yeah, it was really cool, man. And I love that, his music and everything has meant so much to so many people. And it's so great to hear, especially in the Angels world. Angels is so personal to him. And he said that from every aspect of it.
Yeah.
And so for him to put as much as he does into the music and to feel that back, I love hearing that. That's so cool because he's meant so much to so many people. And you want him to get that back as an artist at some point. And I'm so happy to hear that he has. Honestly, dude, like the last tour part that was so cool to me is like everybody seems so fucking happy, just happy.
Yeah, they really did. It's hard to really like, and like I said earlier, it's like that's one of those things I wish everyone could feel. I wish everyone could like, you get, because it wasn't just hard work on one person. So there was a lot of people who put a lot of hours into that tour, and a lot of like put aside a lot of their regular scheduled lives to make that tour what it was. And like, was it the biggest looking tour? No. Was it, I mean, it was a successful tour, but it's not going to show up on any sort of like Polestar or Billboard reviews as the most successful tour out there.
Right.
But like, I think what everyone took away from it and everyone accomplished it, like, was that we all got to like really witness and sense this huge sense of accomplishment and of like putting out what we thought was the best product we could put out nightly.
Yeah.
Like everyone worked hard towards that and enjoyed doing it. And like everyone, like, and like I said, like not just Tom, not just David, Alon, or Matt, but those 4 dudes worked really hard on their side. The crew all worked really hard on that side. Jimmy and management worked really hard. Like Andrew, their booking agent, was so on top of it every day. Like I've worked for other artists where like I'd go on tour and never once hear from people.
Wow.
Like their managers would only want to hear about final numbers or something like that. They wouldn't want to hear like, but how's Tom feeling, or like what's the vibe, or what's going on here, and like but everybody, even Aaron, Alon's brother Aaron's our studio engineer. Like the amount of work he had to do with Justin to get, like, we went from our old guitar rigs, which were all MIDI based and very, very elaborate, but we didn't need that anymore,
Right.
Like that kind of technology just doesn't, we don't need to tour with that much stuff anymore. Like to take Angels on tour now, there's like 6 cases, everything else is
That's
like
wild.
Like yeah, there's 2 drum trunks, there's a guitar vault, which we're adding some other stuff, but like there's an Axe Effects rack, there's Matt's Bass World, there's some playback rig, there's it's just like, it's crazy. So like Justin and Aaron just spent days taking all of those old guitar tones and taking them from those old rigs and all those old recordings and getting them into the new setup, and then like to see like so many positive reviews everywhere about just like everything from how kids were pumped on how things sounded, to kids were pumped on how things looked, or kids were pumped to like the set list. Just like it was just such a great payoff, It's like,
Yeah.
and you don't feel that on every tour. Every tour you work on, some tours you work on, you're like, okay, well, like my summer tour, like Jimmy World and Third Eye Blind, you know what I mean? Like that tour ended and I was like, okay, well, we made it through that one. You know what I mean? Like Jimmy World, we got to put up a bunch of we put on a great show. I thought we put on a great show for what we were allowed every day. But when it ended, I was one, relieved, because I was like, it was a lot of bullshit, but there was like also like, fuck, okay, we made it. You know what I mean? I was like, it was one of those things. So yeah, it was a lot, and I'm glad people enjoyed it. And I'm really excited because I hope people understand that like after this break, what we've been working on, and like, you take something away from someone, they're only going to come back like with, not like with a vengeance, man. But like when it comes time, like I hope people understand, like they're going to get the best of like Angels, because I think their band as a whole is in that position again. And like from my side and my team is like all we want to do is get back to it, do it better than before, do it bigger than before, and like just fucking stoke people out, especially after this long time of not getting live music. Like people are trying, they're doing live streams, they're doing all this other shit, but like do something, but like there's nothing replaces being in a room with bright lights and loud music ever. I know. Like nothing. Surrounded by great people, surrounded by people that believe in the same thing you believe in. Nothing replaces that. Like and so when that comes back, we're going to be working our ass off to give everybody literally like the best, the best time, and forget all about this fucking 2020 shit.
Oh my gosh, I know. We're gonna have to erase it. All right, I got a couple quick things, and then I'm gonna wrap it up with some rapid fire. I know we've been going on a while. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, no worries, dude.
In regards to the tour, I do want to know, what is the pre-show routine? What is the after-show routine? If you're in the Angels Airwaves dressing room, what's going down before and after?
Well, on a normal show that New Regime isn't playing, Alon is probably sleeping or writing. He's just like always got his studio stuff out. So he's either sleeping or writing. David, maybe watching a movie, maybe making a fresh pot of coffee, maybe on his phone. Tom, they're usually after like there's like a timeline, like an hour out. There's a couple hours, 2 hours, 3 hours out is dinner time. They're eating. 2 hours out, they're kind of like all doing their own thing and like mentally doing their little mental preparation. Um, Maybe saying hi to guests that are at the show, starting to prepare. About an hour out, Tom will take control of the radio in the dressing room, and the music will get progressively louder. Like he'll just start playing all of his favorite songs. Like I should try to make a playlist of what he plays.
That'd be cool.
But sometimes it's so sporadic because he'll hear something and he'll want the other dudes to hear it. And then they'll be like, oh, cool. He can tell they're not stoked on it. So he switches to something else real quick. But yeah, and then a lot before, like maybe, and then 30 minutes out, I'm popping into the dressing room. I'm like, yo, you got 30 minutes. Music's loud. They're talking, but they're talking loud instead of just turning down the music. They're talking loud and trying to animate things to each other. And then they're just getting ready. There's a lot of like kind of weird dancing. There's like some nervous tea drinking, a lot of water going on. After that, sometimes you'll get a lot of pacing, bathroom breaks, and then 10 minutes out, I'm usually going to get their in-ears on.
Yeah.
And then they're starting to say either see you later to their loved ones, because like usually the last 10 minutes is when like we walk to right behind the stage, and then you can almost tell that they're locked in at that point.
Nice.
Like they're kind of focused on listening to what's happening in their ears, making sure that their shit sounds right. They're thinking about their last minute stuff. Like a lot of times they'll want to talk to one of their techs real quick. Like Tom will ask to say something to remind Justin of something, or they're and then 5 minutes out, you just kind of let them do their thing. Like they'll start to huddle together alone. Like I don't get into the mix. There's nothing I need to be there for. I'm just giving them their heads up on time. And then they kind of they're locked in. They're discussing things amongst themselves. Tom's probably making some sort of funny joke to lighten the mood. And then that's kind of, I give them we roll the intro. No one's really talking. They'll say like, some sort of words of encouragement to each other, and then they walk out. There's a fist bump. I'll stand on the top of the stairs as they ramp to the thing. There's a fist bump to each one of the dudes, and then they go and enjoy the show. Like you don't want to like get too involved in that moment. You want to let them. They've all been doing it for years. They all know what they need to do. Like all I've got to do is tell them time. And so then they do their show, and post show is usually, we try not to do it, but there's usually pizza, sometimes fried chicken after show. The hard part is like half of the crew is vegan, and so like you have to do like weird vegan after show food for most of those dudes. But everyone gets so tired of pizza every night. It's almost a dream. It's a childhood dream. Like, what the fuck? I get to eat pizza every night. But also like 2 weeks into a tour, you're like, yo, I don't want fucking pizza anymore. So, everyone comes. It's also late. It's not like you're going to eat dinner at like 10 p.m. and then go to bed at 11. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, but you did just expend all this energy. So like you are going to replace it, or you want to replenish. But they come off stage. Sometimes they'll like eat on some pizza, have some snacks. But for the most part, like with Tom, he'll cool down if he's on the bus. Basically, almost like he'll just shower real quick, straight to the bus. If he's off to a hotel, usually we'll do what's called a runner, like where the car will be waiting. He'll walk off stage. I'll take his ears off. Like I'll have his backpack ready for him. He'll like say thank you to the guys. Like they'll have a quick recap of the show, and then he's off to the hotel because he may have to wake up at 7:30 in the morning or 7 a.m. to catch a flight to the next city. Because he doesn't necessarily sleep well on the bus. And then the rest of the guys, like our loadout is pretty quick. Like I said, with our lighting situation, like we have a flat pack into our truck. So David will be first onto the bus. He usually sets the mood and what movie is going to be watched. Matt and Alon will usually hang out for a little bit and decompress, and then at that point, they'll hop in the shower. At that point, the crew is basically done. Our outs usually only take like 45 minutes, an hour to get all that shit off stage and into the truck, and so they're ready and like. Crew's showering, eating pizza, but then it's basically just a movie on the bus, until bus call, and it's like in all honesty, it's great. It's so much like there's no wildness, there's no everyone's like old and married, like long-term relationships, and it's just like, and no one has the time and energy to be like, oh, you want to go to this bar? I think we went bowling in St. Louis after the show in at the pageant, which was like. There was such a crazy, like, for some reason, the promoter wouldn't cancel the show, or like we wouldn't, the show wouldn't get canceled, but there was like so much snow. And like, it was the second time playing St. Louis since we restarted. It was a radio show. And like, we had to cut the set short because like the city was like, people have to be home by this time. There's so much snow on the ground.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was like such a fucking clusterfuck. And so we were like basically trapped there. The bus couldn't leave. So we just went bowling next door. And that was like one of the few times we went out after the show. And it was only because the bowling alley was literally right next door. We had like, funny. And Alon, that band Fantagram was in town. So Alon was buddies with them. And so they were there and we just went over there and bowled. And that was about it. That's pretty much the most boring routine.
No, that's all right. No, I mean, that's what I feel like I would probably do at my age if I was on tour or whatever. So, but that's cool to hear. I always picture David, trying these different coffees in different cities. I picture him just taking a swig of one and just fucking like spitting it out. Like, this is such ass compared to the ones I make.
No. He's such a David applauds effort. He appreciates effort,
Okay.
So he we go to these places and he just takes it all in, like the good and the bad, and like it's weird, a few times he's been recognized as a dude that has a coffee shop, not necessarily. He's like, oh yeah, that like as another coffee person.
Not the dude from Boxcar Racer.
We had a day off in Boise and we went to a coffee shop. And the guy was like, oh, yeah, like, well, I'm from San Diego, so I know James Coffey. Like, when he walked in, he knew David from James Coffey. Yeah, it was really funny. He was like, yeah, I also knew that he was in a band, but I knew him from James Coffey, which I thought was really cool. But yeah, so it's like, he's applaud the effort, like the same thing with anybody or like, we just go and like, and also when you're on tour and it's like fucking 8:30 in the morning, 9 a.m. and you just slept on the bus. Like, we have bus coffee, which is usually pretty good because we travel with bags of James. We have a good coffee set up on the bus, but then to go somewhere where it's like, like they're taking pride in making you that coffee, like you're just pumped. You're pumped to be out experiencing it and being around cool people. So yeah, it's like, no, he's good with that stuff. He's no coffee snob.
That's funny. All right,
Justin.
Go ahead.
Justin, on the other hand, is a bit of a coffee snob. We'll leave it at that.
All right. Last thing I want to touch on, and then we'll wrap up with quick rapid fire. So, cool. What does the future hold for AVA, man? Everybody knows that they're working on the new album. Tom has teased a couple clips. He's kind of said holiday potentially. And to me, as an outsider, I'm thinking, I don't even know if it makes sense to drop anything this year, to be honest. But what's the future hold for Angels?
Honestly, we don't know. Like, I don't know. I know Jimmy's working on stuff. Him and Tom talk all the time about it. They're finishing up the record. Like, it's so funny because Tom, when people are like, well, Tom said the record's done. It's just like the hard part of the record, I believe, is done. Like, they spent so long. It's been over a year, like when you really think about it.
Oh, yeah.
And I honestly think that Tom and Aaron are now working better than ever before. It took a long time for that relationship to really develop into, like, I think, for them to know what to expect out of each other, and for them to be able to do things without necessarily needing like that always complement each other. And so a lot of the stuff that was first recorded is has changed. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, the fact that if they recorded a demo or if they worked on something a year ago, I can guarantee you it's better now. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And so we just moved everything in to the studio. They're all done with, I know they're all done with drums. They were posting about that. They're on guitars now. Bass goes in. I dropped the stuff off on Monday. And then I'm building an ISO booth for Tom's vocal booth. He records his vocals back at the house studio. But like the framework is all the songs are complete. The framework is all there. Now it's just doing the best take out of everything and getting the best recording on it so that it all has a uniform feel, because it won't the way it had been recorded previously. Like something's recorded here, something's recorded there. Now everything will be, like doing all the vocal takes at one time, as opposed to like his vocal from a year ago, which I actually think, now that he's been spending so much time working on his stuff, his vocal things, and he's just better to me. Like, I've been at the house when he's singing and I'm like, yeah, it's okay. It's good. And then I've been at the house again recently. We're like, oh, or heard something that was recorded recently. Oh, this is way better,
Nice.
So now it's to get all of that stuff done. So yeah, so when he record's done, I believe it. Like, yeah, like front to back, everything is laid out in position and what it needs to be. And now it's going to give it the best take, which they're flying through because everyone is so familiar with everything.
Yeah.
And they're getting the best take on everything, best sounds on everything. So I'm really excited about that. As far as like record, like the other shit, like timelines and stuff, I have no idea about. That shit is so out of my world. I just get told like, hey, you're playing shows, start doing your thing.
Yeah.
But we won't know anything about that and like live shows for a long time. Hopefully we figure out something cool for kids or not kids, for fans to like wrap their head around. Like, I don't know if you release a record during a pandemic when you can't tour.
Yeah. That's my thought.
It sucks.
Like, gosh.
Like Jimmy World recorded or released that. Like, one of the shittiest parts about it is like Jimmy World recorded, I think, released one of their best records in a long ass time. And like, you can't do anything about it. Like, It's so shitty that they can't be out playing those songs live, because like I've seen a few of them live. We did a couple weeks of stuff and they're awesome. Like,
yeah,
that new song, that Jimmy World song 555, is so unbelievably good, and they can't go out and play it anymore. And like, I hope by the time that people are able to go to shows again, like, I hope it doesn't just seem like old news,
Right, yeah.
Because I hope that doesn't happen.
Yeah,
you tore on the record, so I don't know. Maybe these bands can figure out, like, if they do have to release something, they release like some sort of weird deluxe version when they announce a tour, or they like release it with another song or something. I don't know how that works. That's the side of it that I hate and I don't like dealing with, you know?
Yeah, no, I got you.
Yeah. So I don't know. I guess in true Tom fashion, just stay tuned. You'll know soon enough.
Yep, coming soon.
Coming
All
soon.
right, man. Well, I'm gonna get you out of here on some rapid fire. I really appreciate your time.
Worries,
this
dude.
was so fucking rad. So
awesome, man. It was good catching up.
Yeah, for sure. So, all right, favorite album by Tom, all time for you?
Oh man, that's really rough. I mean, I could do it. I couldn't do it individually, because I absolutely, like, I love the Blink self-titled record. I think that changed a lot for them, for his career and for his life. But in the same respect, for that, I actually think that the Boxcar record I look at that record as a gateway between old Blink into the self-titled,
Oh, totally, for sure.
And so when I look back on it, I actually just, I guess this isn't a quick fire, but I just found the 4x4 painting of the cover of the Boxcar record. That's another thing that he was like, that's going up in my new house. And so I was like, okay, perfect. Yeah. So I actually I just more recently appreciate Boxcar record for what it did for him personally. Like
Yeah.
him going out on a limb with some of that stuff and experimenting. And then I really love what they did with it, like him, Mark, and Travis did on the Blink self-titled record. You know,
Yeah.
they took all of that and they like stepped it up quite a bit. So I do love that. And then with the Angels stuff, that one's really hard for me because um, I was because the way I've worked for them, I've always every night gotten a greatest hits record, basically,
Right.
like
Yeah.
even in rehearsals and stuff like that. So I don't think I could give a greatest one, but I will say that of every song that dude has ever played, currently, oh man, I think Heaven may be currently my all time of his.
That's a
You
lot
know,
of people's favorite Angel song of all time.
dude, it wasn't before this last record, and like I said, it makes me emotional thinking about it live and what like lyrically, emotionally, everything that just comes with it, and then what you like him and what it means to him, like
Yeah.
means a lot to me. So like I would say that I would say that like I love I love the Boxcar record, especially with him and David collaborating really for the first time and what that's turned into. I love the Blink self-titled record, and I really love Heaven, like
Yeah.
as a song. Like I would say that from his three eras, I
Yeah.
would say that means the most. Those are what mean the most to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
I saw you got a couple skate decks or something on the wall. Do you have a favorite collectible or item or anything like that? Piece of
Oh.
memorabilia?
I would actually say so. This is from the guys who let us use their warehouse to
Okay.
relaunch everything. They create all the artwork for. They create all the artwork. I'll show up close here. They create all the artwork for the House of Blues, like House of Blues or Anaheim. They do a skate deck for every sold out show.
Oh shit.
So yeah, and so they own a skateboard company up in Michigan or something like that. I don't exactly know how it ties in, but they presented us with those. So like the band and crew all have one, and like that's a completely limited release to just us,
Sick.
So that means a lot to me. The other one is our buddy Hooter designed that one. It's the San Diego Padre riding ET's bike with ET in the basket, and it's just like the sold out one. I currently have this in my possession, Tom's signature, the Seafoam Green, but
Insane.
it's not mine. It's just currently in my possession, and I play it through some of his old pedals, like down here. This is like my workshop, by the way. This is my downstairs little area. So I play it through some of his old pedals, and that's kind of fun. But I don't really currently have anything that like. Oh, sorry. I don't currently have anything that's like over the top memento from Angels. I do have this when Mike Hem flew to Japan to do they went to do live at the Budokan DVD, but then Frank got sick and so they couldn't shoot the DVD, and we ended up with like some extra days there. I did buy this crazy Japanese only release Megatron from Transformers, and
Oh shit.
that's that guy up there in like in a shadow box I made. And actually, what's funny is my landlord came in one day. He was like, "I sure hope you don't need that in a hurry because it's gonna be real hard to get out." And I didn't have the guts to tell him that it was a transformer.
Funny.
Yeah, so that's like one of the cool. I remember that being one of the coolest things. But you know what? I don't really hold on to a lot of shit. Like
Okay.
I have the memories. I have the memories for me, and really that like sometimes I think about writing them down but I really enjoy the fact that sometimes a random one will come to me, and it's like, it's the best thing to reminisce, like to not have to look at something and be reminded of it, but to just literally like have just a super funny memory. Really goes a long way for me, you know?
Yeah, that's cool, man. All right, only two left.
Yeah.
You as a tour manager, when do you think shows will return? Not just Angels, but in general.
Shows in general with people at them, I'm going to say late 2021.
Okay.
Like, so there's been a few like real big heads of the music industry. This one very notable guy, Mark Geiger, he came recently out and said 2022.
Fuck.
Yeah, but I mean, you have to look at it like as if you're the promoters of major festivals, right? Like you have to look at the liability of putting
Oh
50,000
yeah.
people in a place again, you know. And if you don't see sports leagues doing it, they're until you see sports leagues doing um, attendance, like maybe at one point they open up venues of a 500 cap, right?
Right.
But like you can't do our whole business model as touring entities is you can't do is based on 100% capacity. That's what you know how guarantees are based. So if all of a sudden the health department says, okay, that room normally holds 500 people or 1,000 people, you're only allowed to put 300 people in there. I think someone did the numbers for House of Blues Anaheim, and they were like, if you can only put this capacity in, or if like they have to be this far apart with social distancing, they went from like they basically would be operating at like 38% capacity. So you're then asking that 38% to take up the financial load of 100%, right?
Right.
To make it worth it for an artist to be able to tour. An artist's expenses aren't going to go down.
Right.
You know, to tour, buses aren't going to be any cheaper. Lightings aren't going to be any cheaper. Crew isn't going to be any cheaper. So what do? You know, like I don't see bands being able to do it until we can reach back to close to 100% capacity, or can offset the financials of it somehow, which that's above my pay grade. I'm not smart enough to figure that out.
It'll be interesting to see if like private shows that are like a premium become a thing. Like you live in a world where instead of $40 for 1,000 people, you pay 500 for your 6-foot section on the floor or something.
Yeah, but the problem is you're still having to enforce people. And like you're still having to force people to like, don't come in contact with that person. Don't walk within this distance of people, you know? And like you can't do that. People they get into a show, they start drinking, and they start losing their fucking self. Like I know there's been a few people that have had to try to do stuff already and it didn't work out, you know?
Yeah, it's sad. I mean, we need a vaccine very quickly.
I think, but who's going to try it? Are you going to try it?
I know, that's the thing. I mean, I think about that all the time. I'm like, I don't know when this ends, because even if there's a vaccine, for one, people are going to refuse it, and I don't blame them. For two, what if it mutates? I mean, it's just fucking crazy, man. It really is.
Current, like, my sister runs clinical research trials for a large medical group, and she was like, you're absolutely not fucking taking it. You know what I mean?
Oh gosh.
Like, and that's her job. And current, like not to be a bummer, my mom just tested positive yesterday, and she's dealing with it. And my sister's still like, you're not taking it, you know? And like now I'm dealing with thankfully my dad was negative, but he's taking care of my mom, so he's going to end up positive, you know? And they're old, they live in Florida, like, you know, so it's like we're all dealing with it, but we'll like, who knows? I don't know, man. I don't see it coming back anytime soon, and it's fucking heartbreaking because live music does a lot for a lot of people.
It really does.
I'm not just saying financially, emotionally, it does a lot. Like providing that escape for people a couple nights a week. It's like, man. You see it. You see them get to let go and go, okay, man, life's not that bad, you know?
Dude, to me,
I really enjoyed last night.
Concerts are like my vacations. Like literally, I mean, dude, I work Monday through Friday, grind, got a kid. And so I like literally, I have it planned out like June 5th, I'm going to see Angels on a Friday, and I'm looking forward to that for months, man. And that's like my day to let go. So without that, like, gosh, that and sports, and they're both just gone right now.
I know. Well, these, you know, like I actually was just checking up on the Yankees, but like sports coming back is one thing. I'm excited to see. It feels weird watching baseball with them piping in crowd noise because I keep
Yeah.
looking up, like something will happen. I'll look up and I'm like, oh, there's no one there still.
Yeah.
I do, however, like what the NBA is doing. I like the way it looks. You know, like
Yeah.
that
The
they're not
bubble.
faking it. The bubble. I like the bubble. They actually hit up our travel agent who handles like our travel agent that I use for Angels. He also handles like a bunch of pro athletes and stuff. And they
Yeah.
hit him up to be like the on-site concierge, but it didn't work out. But he went and visited the bubble for a while, and he was like, "It's crazy."
Oh, I bet. No, dude, they get tested
But
all
yeah,
the time. I mean, they have
yeah,
to check in the morning. It's nuts. But I mean, knock on wood. Hopefully, they can get through the season. So,
yeah, absolutely.
all right, man. Well, last question here. I want to thank you
Cool.
so much for your time.
Yeah,
This
dude.
has
Of
been
course, man.
awesome. And again,
Yeah, it's been
anybody
fun.
who wants to follow Jeff, he's at XHumbleBragX on Instagram. And thank you so much for everything you do for all the fans and for Angels. It's just
Yeah,
the past year was awesome
dude.
until it hit the fan.
Yeah. Well, it'll come back awesome. Also, I always talk about this, but like, um, kids or whoever that wants to do what I do can always reach out and ask any question about how to get involved, or if they do have a question about something in particular. Like, I've been really, really lucky to have incredible people show me the way,
Yeah.
of how to do things. So, like, if I can pass that on to someone who wants to do this, like someone who like is in a prime position when this comes back to to go on tour and to grind it out and to like make artist dreams come true as well as your own, as well as fulfilling like what I was talking about. Like, please do. Like, the more qualified people, not saying like what I'm going to tell you is going to make you overly qualified, but if I can
Right.
give you any sort of help and steer you in any sort of direction, absolutely, please feel free to reach out however, and like open some sort of dialogue. But yeah, cool.
Cool. All right, man. Last thing is just, do you have anything you want to say to either Angels fans or just, people out there listening?
I mean, whatever. I'm pretty sure I've said it already, but it's going to be awesome when this does get back to normal. We're working so hard on being prepared to bring you something like out of this world, and we like hopefully that happens because we miss it just as much as I know everyone else does. And like, it's weird to speak for someone on someone else's behalf because I'm always the dude that's like behind the scenes, but
Yeah.
I can guarantee you that like not just Tom or David or Alon or Matt, like we all miss it like so much that we going to give you something special when we get back to it, and that like we all look forward to being in that same room together and like and sharing that same energy again one day.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I can't wait. And whenever you're nearby, man, I'll hit you up. Hopefully,
Yeah, dude, for
late
sure. Don't forget.
2021.
Yeah. Send me your address. I gotta send you some shit.
All right, so that concludes the Jeffrey Pereira interview. Just so fucking dope. I'm so thankful for Jeff taking time to hop on the pod. I actually met Jeff at the last Angels and Airwaves tour, so such a special treat. I can't wait to see Angels back on the road. So stoked for their new album, and even though this year fucking sucks, I'm hoping we can get through this COVID crap, get back to live music, and it's gonna be awesome whenever it happens. So again, Jeff, thanks so much for coming on the show. Jeff is at XHumbleBragX on Instagram. So if you enjoy this stuff, drop these guests a line on their Instagram in their comments or something. Let them know you enjoyed it. They do not have to do this. They are taking time out of their day just to come on and shoot the shit and really just share some rad insight with some of us hardcores. So it's just such a special treat, and I'm just so thankful, and I hope you all enjoyed it so much. Okay, so I mentioned at the beginning of the episode that I had a special treat and I was quite biased, and you're about to find out why. So most people know, I think, that any of the music that you hear throughout these podcasts, it's me, and that's actually out of necessity, not because it's super good or anything like that. But when I was first putting together a podcast, I found out very quickly that you can't use anybody's music where they can actually yank your episodes, which is the last thing I wanted to happen. So out of necessity, I had to teach myself GarageBand. I had to get an interface. And so I figured, what the hell, I've written my own stuff for a long time. I know I can get an intro riff going or some of these transitions. So it's been fun for me to kind of sneak my stuff in there, here and there. But I started taking this a tad bit more seriously after my conversation with Christopher Holmes. So one of the things that Christopher Holmes said in our conversation is, do what makes you happy and fuck everyone else, which I just love. But part of me was thinking, you know what? I have not done anything with my music for what has been a decade at this point, and it's something that I know I will always regret if I don't do it in 20 years, at least not trying. So I decided to try. And I encourage all of you, if you're thinking about doing something, do it. Nothing is promised. We don't know how long we're going to be here. I could get hit by a bus tomorrow. And so I was determined to at least try with some of my music. And a couple episodes back, I dropped in one of my songs, Get Me Out of Here, as a demo. I did that demo and I took it as far as I could get it. But what happened next is super dope. So one of the listeners who's actually on the forums at Highland, he reached out and he said, hey man, if you have any songs you want me to check out, I can produce, I can mix, pretty good in Logic Pro. Let me know, would love to hear it. And so I took him up for it, sent him over some of my songs, and there was one called Stay Away that I had taken really as far as I could, and he dug it. And so really what's super dope is, as a thank you to me for doing the pod, which is just so cool and nothing that I ask for, need, or want or anything, he said he would take on really this song and work his magic on it, produce it, mix it, master it, everything. And so the past month, he and I have been sending these files back and forth, and it's just been so fucking cool to hear something that has been in my head for, a long time come to life, professionally mixed, professionally mastered. And lo and behold, I got that damn thing in iTunes on Friday. I think it's in Spotify, Pandora, pretty much everywhere at this point. I have it up on YouTube, on the 182 News YouTube channel. And so a lot of people have asked me how they can support me or support the pod. And as I had mentioned before, I'm not going to ask you for any money on this. I'm a Blink fan just trying to do rad shit for other Blink fans. But if you want to stream my music or support my music, I think you can buy it in iTunes. I'm not sure, to be honest. But stream the song, share the song. I would love to hear from you on this. And so what I'm going to do is pop in my first professional song here at the end of this. It's called Stay Away. It was mixed and mastered by a fellow listener who, if you need help with something, definitely hit him up. It's at the_light_fandango_ on Instagram. And I'm going to pop this in here. It is really an anti-breakup song. So a lot of breakup songs are like, come back to me, I miss you so much. Not this one. This one is stay the hell away forever, please. So I really hope you enjoy it. Again, this song is called Stay Away. I would love if you at least check it out, listen to it, and I would love to hear your feedback. I'm just going as Poppin' Curbs as the artist, so if you look it up on Apple Music or whatever, just type in Poppin' Curbs and Stay Away, and I'm going to put it in right here. I appreciate you checking it out.
Say what you have to say, so I can hear it. You can throw your words at me, I don't fear it. You can say anything you want, I don't feel it. You can punish me with your actions, I'm sure I need it. Stay away. Stay away. You are changing the sun.